Good morning. In today's lesson, we're going to learn how to convert between fractions and decimals. This video is going to talk you through how to do this and will be useful for when you complete the work afterwards. Feel free to pause the video when you need to answer any questions that are on the slides. What is a fraction? We've learnt over the last couple of weeks that a fraction represents part of a whole. Today, though, we're going to be thinking about decimals as well. You might be wondering what a decimal is. A decimal also shows part of a whole, in this case, a number. Now we've had a chance to think about what both fractions and decimals represent, we're going to learn how to convert between the two. First of all, we're going to work out how to convert a decimal into a fraction. This show question is asking us what decimal is shaded. We then need to convert this into a fraction. In order to do this, we need to work out what 0.1 add 0.1 add 0.1 add 0.1 makes. This makes 0.4. Once we've done that, we can think of 0.1 on a place value grid. What value does it have? Where would the 1 fall? We know that the 1 would be found in the tenths column. Therefore, it has the value of tenths. Therefore, 0.4 is 4 tenths, or written as a fraction like this. 4 is the numerator, 10 is the denominator. It's going to be really important for you to remember to use your place value grids as you do this. You might want to draw one out on a piece of paper to help you. Now we've had a look at how to convert between a decimal and a fraction, let's have a go at filling out this grid. There's a hint on the screen that says to think about the place value of the decimals to work out whether the denominator must be 10 or 100. You're going to need to pause the video now so that you can convert between decimals and fractions. You'll then need to simplify the fraction to fill out the final column. So, for the first question, we have 3 lots of 0.1. Therefore, we have 3 tenths. Use this to help you work out the rest of the table. Please pause the video now. On the screen now are all the answers to the previous slide. You might want to pause this again to check that you've got them right. Pause the video now. On the screen there is a think question. Alex says that 0.84 is equivalent to 84 over 10. Do you agree? Explain why. Let's have a go at this together. We know that Alex has to be wrong because 0.84 has the value of 8 tenths and 4 hundredths. Because the decimal has hundredths, it has to be 84 over 100 or 84 hundredths rather than 84 tenths. We've been able to work this out because we've used our place value in 0.84. So far in this lesson, we've worked out how to convert decimals into fractions. We're now going to do the opposite. We're going to learn how to convert fractions back into decimals. On the screen, you will see a variety of common fractions. In Year 6, you should know the decimal equivalents off by heart. I'd like you to pause the video and write down how many decimal equivalents to these fractions you can remember. Don't worry if you can't remember them all. On the next slide, we'll go through them. Pause the video now so that you can write down your answers. You'll see on the screen the decimal equivalents to these fractions. A half is the same as 0.5. A quarter is the same as 0.25. A fifth is the same as 0.2. An eighth is the same as 0.125. And a third is the same as 0.33. Now I've just said that a third is the same as 0.33. This is the decimal rounded to the nearest two decimal places. In actual fact, a third is the same as 0.333333, and it keeps on going, but you don't need to know that now. It might be a good idea to make sure that you have these fraction and decimal equivalents written down somewhere so that you can look at them again in the future if you need them to help you answer a question. We've just seen some common fraction and decimal equivalents. However, you can't be expected to remember all of them. So there's another way that you can work the equivalents out. This involves using short division to help us convert fractions to decimals. In this question, Dina is trying to convert 2/5 to a decimal. What she has done is put the numerator, the 2, inside of the bus stop, and she's dividing it by the 5. We know that 5 can't fit into 2 very easily. Therefore, what Dina has done is she's put a decimal point after the 2 and added a 0. This means that she'll be able to exchange in the future. What is this 0 that she's put in the bus stop? It's a placeholder. Placeholders hold the place of a number and help us to exchange in division. 5 fits into 2 0 times, so she's put a 0 at the top of the bus stop. We've got decimal numbers here, so she puts a decimal point after this. Because the 5 couldn't fit into the 2, she's exchanged this 2 into 20 tenths and put a little 2 before the 0 that she drew earlier. 5 can fit into 20, and it does so 4 times. Therefore, she writes the 4 after the decimal point at the top of the bus stop. She's worked out that her answer would be 0.4. Therefore, 2/5 is the same as 0.4. I would like you to try using Dina's method of short division to work out these fractions, converting them into decimals. Before you start, let's have a think about the first one together though. We're going to use short division to help us solve this. Remember, the 5 is being divided by the 8. The numerator gets divided by the denominator. You might want to think of the fraction bar in the middle as kind of like a division sign. So, you will need to draw out a bus stop ready for short division. Inside the bus stop, you're going to write 5. Outside the bus stop, you're going to write 8. Can 8 fit into 5? No, it can't. So, after the 5, you're going to need to put a decimal point and then a 0. Because 8 can't fit into the 5, we put a 0 above the bus stop and then follow it with a decimal point. Now we've not used that 5 yet, so what we're going to do is exchange the 5 to 50 tenths. So you'll need to draw a little 5 before the 0. Now work out how many times 8 fits into 50. Write your answer on top of the bus stop after the decimal point. Keep on going, adding zeros inside the bus stop and exchanging whatever is left over. On the next slide, you'll see the answers to all 3 fractions. I'd like you to have a go at all 3 and then you can check your answers. Pause the video now to continue working out these questions. Hopefully, you worked out that 5/8 equals 0.625, 4/5 equals 0.8, and 8/5 equals 1.6. Now we've done some do's, let's have a go at thinks. When we're trying to find a decimal, what can we do to help us? Do you remember we need to use short division in our questions. This question says, Mo says that 63 over 100 is less than 0.65. Do you agree with Mo? Explain your answer. Let's have a go at this one together. When you answer these kind of questions, remember you need to answer it, then you need to use some maths to prove it, and then you need to explain your answer. So, I do agree with Mo because 63 hundredths converted into a decimal is 0.63. I know this because when I divide the numerator by the denominator, my answer is 63 divided by 100, and this makes 0.63. 0.63 is indeed less than 0.65. Can you see how on the screen, when I've answered this question, I've said whether I agree or not, I've used my maths to prove it, and I've explained. Remember to do this when you're asked to do a think question. Let's have a go at another think. This question tells us that 8 friends share 7 pizzas. How much pizza does each person get? And we're asked to give our answer as a decimal and a fraction. Now this is a word problem, and when we see word problems, we need to pick out the key information and try and work out what it's asking us. The easiest way to do this is to try and write a number sentence for the question. This question tells us that there are 7 pizzas and they need to be shared equally between 8 friends. This is the same as saying 7 divided into 8 equal parts. Let's look at the next slide to see the answer. So, as a fraction, we have 7 pizzas split into 8 equal parts. So, the fraction must be 7/8. To work out the decimal, I know that I need to divide 7 by 8. This equals 0.875, and I've used short division to do this. You'll see on the screen that I've put the 8 outside of the bus stop because this is my divisor. The 7 goes inside the bus stop. Now 8 fits into 7 0 times. So that's why I put a 0 above the bus stop. I then put a decimal point because I knew I was going to need to exchange. I then put zeros after this. When I exchange 7 ones, I get 70 tenths. 8 goes into 70 8 times and has 6 left over. Therefore, what I did next was carry the 6 and put it in front of the next 0. 8 fits into 60 7 times, but has 4 left over. So I carry or exchange the 4 and put it in front of the next 0. 8 fits into 40 perfectly 5 times. Because 8 finally fits into something perfectly, I know I have worked out my answer and I don't need to keep on going. Therefore, 7/8 is equivalent to 0.875. One final think, and this one I'd like you to have a go at yourself. Rosie and Tommy have both attempted to convert 2/8 into a decimal. Rosie says that she converted 2/8 into 0.25. Tommy converted 2/8 into 4. Who is correct? And prove it. So, in order to answer this question, you're going to need to say who's correct, but also prove it. How might you prove this question? If I were you, I would try converting it yourself and see if your answer matches either of theirs. But how are you going to prove it? What do you need to do? Remember, when we're converting fractions into decimals, we divide the numerator, the top number, by the bottom number. Work out what 2 divided by 8 is. You're going to need to use short division to do this. Once it's worked out, you'll be able to prove whether either Rosie or Tommy has got the answer correct. Pause the video now and have a go yourself. Hopefully you were able to have a go yourself and it wasn't too difficult because you've watched all the slides and understood how to do it. If you weren't sure how to do it, maybe go back through the video and see if you understand a second time. On the screen now is the answer. The answer is that Rosie is correct and Tommy is incorrect. This is because Tommy has divided 8 by 2 rather than 2 by 8 to find the answer. He's got it the wrong way round. Give yourself a big pat on the back if you got that answer correct. Fractions are tricky and you've worked really hard to try and understand it. This video is now coming to an end. You're going to have do, think and explore questions to get on with next. On Microsoft Teams, you've been given instructions on when to complete each piece of work. This lesson should last 3 days, so make sure you pace yourself and don't do too much at once. You shouldn't really be spending more than an hour on maths at a time. So, if you've already used your first hour up, leave the do's for tomorrow. Remember, once you've done all your work, you need to add work before handing it in. A lot of people keep on forgetting to do this, and this means we can't see whether you've understood the maths or not. You can either type your answers into the boxes provided on the worksheet, or you can take a photo. We don't mind which way. Do whatever is easiest for you. Hope you're keeping safe and well, and good luck with the rest of this maths lesson. Bye!